Alright everybody, welcome to another Premodern video. It is time for the Premodern Magic Online Society Championships. Yes, very excited about this event. Basically, you qualify to this event by just making a bunch of points over the seasons. And I've been doing pretty well. You can find all of my results in this very channel. So if you're interested in checking it out, you can do so there. But let's say that things have been working out for me in the Premodern format. I'm really getting into it and very, very excited about not only the format, but also specifically this deck. I have been tuning and working on Blue-White Stifle Knot, and it has been working really, really well for me. So I got both to I won the first playoffs that I qualified for, and then I also went 3-1, losing in the finals of the second one. So the deck has been very, very kind to me. I think that this archetype is extremely underexplored. The archetype, the Dreadnought archetype is one of the best decks in the format, right? But most people are playing mono blue, and I think that blue-white has an incredible mirror match. You just play melee mage is basically 2 mana, you win the game, which obviously is pretty good. So having a single card threat that your opponent is forced to interact with, otherwise they just lose on the spot, is very, very strong. And you also have answers. 1 mana, actually multiple 1 mana answers to your opponent's dreadnoughts. So your opponents, they make their combo happen, and then you just plow their dreadnought and you're good to go. We also have access to a little bit of an Allied Intruder package with Phyrexian Furnace, which helps your graveyard-based matchups. This is your Angry Hermits, your Febs, etc. You have Seal of Removal, which is two way to interact. Obviously fantastic against dreadnought. You can also save your own creatures, which is something that I've done in the past multiple times. Winter Orb, absolutely fantastic against decks like, for example, The Rock, absolutely fantastic against decks like This Girl, or like all of those Angel mid-range style decks. And finally, Seal of Cleansing, one of the best cards in the format, really, funnily enough. And also, of course, this deck is only possible because of the fact that Gush is legal, and we actually have access to a very, very solid Gush setup. We're playing 18 lands, which is, by the way, one of this deck's biggest downside compared to Mono Blue, is that we're playing 2 more lands than the Mono Blue versions, which are only playing 16 basic islands or 17 basic islands. But you kind of offset that by having more impactful cards, by having more tools and more options, because Mono Blue cannot deal with resolved creatures and stuff like that. So you are gaining in flexibility, and you're gaining in power level at the cost of a little bit of consistency. You do still have access to very consistent, we don't have as many room for cantrip, but we still have a pretty decent amount of islands for both Gush, Daze, and Foil purposes. It does require a little bit of better sequencing. Very often, even though you don't yet know what you want to do with Fluttershy, you probably should lead on it, just so you can draw basic island later and not having to play that out, and so that you can foil. So things like that come with a little bit of experience. But what are we trying to do? We're trying to play Dreadnought with Vision Charm and Stifle, which basically means that we have a 2 mana 12/12 trample, which closes the game in 2 attacks, which is very nice. We do have access to Meddling Mage, which can be both used as a way of proactively protecting your Dreadnought, which is what I've been doing the most. Just even though I'm playing Swords to Plowshares in my deck, just turn 2 Meddling Mage and Swords to Plowshares kind of blanks a bunch of most decks' answers to Dreadnought. And then the funny thing is both Stifle and Vision Charm are fantastic ways to protect your Dreadnought. Stifle can stop opposing Seal of Cleansing, Seal of Removals, and even stuff like Pernicious Deed. And Vision Charm straight up protects your Dreadnought from any piece of targeted removal, which is very, very cool. So you play your Dreadnought, you protect it, which you have a bunch of different ways to do. And then you can also use cards like Daze, Foil, and Counterspell to help help push your game plan forward, while having access to Gush as a way to refuel after you have done your thing. So this version of the deck has been very, very kind to me. I think it's extremely powerful, and in my opinion, it has felt it just honestly has felt better than Mono Blue, because you're not really giving up that much. I am trying to find room for a couple more cantrips, most likely Portent, but I am still favoring Opt, because Opt works so much better with Counterspell and Foil. Also, the split between Counterspell and Foil could be different. I could be playing 4 foils, only 2 counterspells. I could be playing 2 cantrips instead of the 2 counterspells. But honestly, the card Counterspell has been so good for me that I think that I want to have access to at least a couple of main deck copies. I also just talked about the Enlightening Tutor package, but I want to try to keep it very specific and very minimal. You can really go off. Like you could be playing like 4 Enlightening Tutors and then just play like 8 Silver Bullets if you really wanted to. I don't think that's really what you want to do. So because the card disadvantage is very real of Enlightening Tutor, there's diminishing returns with the card. And sure, you can pitch it to foil or things like that, but like any Enlightening Tutor that you draw past the first one is so bad that I basically only want to play 2 copies, at most 3, but I could never see myself playing 4. In the sideboard, we have some Seal of Cleansings, which are just a great card. Again, it's something that I can tutor for with Enlightened Tutor, and against certain matchups, you can just play Seal of Cleansing and it just sits there, and it just does a lot by just being there, which is very funny. Circle Protection Red, obviously against the red decks, which we can tutor for. We also have a Winter Orb, 2 copies of Kurt's Totem, and 2 copies of Tormod Script. These are some extra tutor targets for Enlightened Tutor to make this card a little bit more powerful. And then Swords to Plowshares, 4 copies total, 2 in the main, 2 in the sideboard. Versus certain decks like the Mirror and stuff like that, this card is just absolutely backbreaking. An extra copy of Counterspell versus the combo decks and things like that. 2 copies of Hydroblast and 1 blue Elemental Blast. This is mostly against decks like Goblins, against decks like Sly, where you really want to make sure that you are able to counter whatever they're doing. Also, one thing that is very important is that one of the main and most efficient and mind-blowing or like blowout kind of interaction spells that can happen is Pyroblast. Pyroblast is actually very problematic for this kind of deck because both Pyroblast and Rev are 2 different cards that do the same thing. It's really tough to work with Meddling Mage, so if you name one, they could have the other one and vice versa. And also, Pyroblast means that you can play your Dreadnought and you Vision Charm, and then your opponent just counters your Vision Charm or your Stifle or whatever it is that you have, and they just 2-for-1 you, which can be really tough to come back from. So that's why Hydroblast, even in matchups where you would not think that the card is like super good, maybe like stuff like Feb, it may be correct for you to bring in like a Hydroblast or Blue Elemental Blast. Finally, a singleton copy of Annul. Absolutely fantastic cyber card, really good against a deck like Survival, where they're going to be playing an extremely impactful enchantment or artifact on turn 2, and you can just have only a single mana up and still get rid of it. So the deck's still a work in progress, but just as is, has been giving me extremely good results, and we're going to see how it treats me in this event. So if you're enjoying my content, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you would like to use TCG Player and Mana Traders services, you can find links in the description of the video down below, where if you use those links to go about doing your business with them, you are basically supporting the stream for free at no extra cost to you whatsoever, which is very nice. And then, of course, I have a 10% discount with Mana Traders in the first couple of months. All of that is going to be in the description of the video down below. Also, if you're interested in me playing any deck list of your choosing, you can make a donation of $30 or more, and I can do it regardless of format. But obviously, if you want me to play some Premodern deck, that would be even more exciting. And then you can book coaching sessions if you're interested in taking your game to get your game to the next level. Or finally, you can also just support me through Patreon. So all of those options and information is in the description of the video down below. Thank you for checking out this video. Let's see how we do in the playoffs, shall we? Alright, round 1 of this championship. Playing against Madness. Yeah, I'll keep this hand. I think I'm gonna play Furnace on 1. Like, this card is actually relevant against my opponent's Squee. And I don't know that I'm playing against Madness, but Cyberpunker has been doing really well with Madness, basically since I joined this league, at least. And I hear that he's been doing it for a while, so yeah, I assume that that's what he's playing. But yeah, this is the kind of hand, you know, we can go turn 1 Furnace, turn 2 Hold Up Days, or like try to opt. I think this is a pretty good hand. Feels a little bit weird, right? Definitely feels a little bit weird. But our best draw is probably Meddling Mage, because I can go. I mean, my best draw is like Stifle effect, right? So I can just turn 2 Dreadnought with Days back up, and the game just ends. Because his only answer would be Waterfront Bouncer. So maybe that's an argument for going for Opt instead. Yeah, let's actually go for Opt here. Like, this is a fine window to just like get the Furnace out of the way, just resolve it. He moves to 5. But The upside of turn 2 Dreadnought is just so high that I'm gonna go for Opt instead. If I whiff, I can always just Furnace the following turn. I'm not gonna do anything with this Careful Study. Like, if he gets a couple of Aquamivas of Rudwalas in play, I don't care. Again, like, the upside is just way too high. Discarding Survival. Interesting. So I'm assuming that he's got another Survival in hand. There goes Rudwala. Come on, Cyberpunker. Come on. Come on, Stanley. What are you doing? Oh, new frame Rudwala? That's disgusting. Alright, give me Stifle, baby. Stifle. SDP. Alright, I'll take it. I guess I'll take it. Another Daze. Furnace. Target you. No need to plow this Rudwala just yet. So we're just gonna chill here. Wasteland. Not particularly great versus mine. I am gonna definitely slam this Adarkar Waste. Like, if my opponent wants to wasteland my wastes, I'm all for it. That makes my Dazes that much better. Alright, untap. Get out of here. Okay, that, I guess, changes things a little bit. No, it doesn't. That's fine. I guess I could gush now, but I don't think I need to. Again, he only has like a silly Rudwala in play. Like, this doesn't scare me at all. Okay, taking one. Do you want to pump? No pump. Wasteland, my Adarkar Waste. Gonna float a white mana. Wasteland resolves. Might as well cast my Swords to Plowshares here. If he wants to play Mongrel, I can just daze it. Untap. Punished. So punished. So we're gonna gush here. He's playing Mana Leak now? Well, that's brutal. Well, I mean, I'm gonna hard cast these days. Looks like he's made some changes to the deck list, which is good, because I thought that his deck list was a little bit weird. A little bit greedy, I mean, not weird. Okay, so next turn we do get to play this Meddling Mage, unless he plays something worth dazing. Is the Mongrel worth dazing? Probably not, but a Survival is. That's a Survival. Floating mana. Daze that thing. I think I'm cantripping here. I think I'm cantripping just to draw a card. Another Dreadnought. Not great. Opt. Not the worst. Okay. My hand is a little bit on the awkward side of things, for sure. Don't have another Survival. Okay, Mongrel's fine. Don't care too much about Mongrel. Can beat that one fairly easily. So Opt on end step. Bottom that. Daze. Okay. Can we do it? Can we draw an enabler for this? We can't. I am gonna Meddling Mage though, and I think what I mage here is Arrogant Worm, because it's the only thing really that could put some pressure on me. If they had Survival, they would have played last turn. So I think naming a worm is the best thing. Alternatively, I could name like Mana Leak or something. But Arrogant Worm is like the only thing that actually pressures me. No blocks. Also Water from Bouncer. Like, if he naturally draws a Water from Bouncer, that may be an issue. So this card's Rudwala, while Mongrel's black. Okay, you got it. Wonder, without an island. Okay, this seems fine to me. A little bit sad that I cracked the Furnace now, but I mean, I think it was correct when I did it. Okay, untap. Winter Orb. It's not great. Do I want another Meddling Mage? Not really. I just really I just really want to set up this combo, which is kind of impossible apparently. We've been digging. We've been digging without success. We've been digging without any success, but gonna take some damage here. This is a potential 2-turn clock, so I may have to chomp block with this Meddling Mage. I'm gonna chomp next turn though, right? If I really want it, I can just play this Winter Orb to limit what my opponent can do next turn. Combo, please. Stifle. Hey. Hey, look at that. Play a Dreadnought. Stifle a Dreadnought. And I'm also going to play Winter Orb here. It's really awkward, but I can't, like, the spells that I'm going to cast don't really matter, right? Like, I have a Daze in hand, and I have another land drop if I need it. So let's get in there for 2. Next turn we can serve for 12. But like, what is the way that my opponent gets out of this, right? Like, they play Water from Bouncer or something, which they're not going to be able to activate, and I can just Daze now. So I think this is good. Interesting that they untapped Coast instead of Forest. Maybe they're holding up Counterspell. But if they're holding up Counterspell, like, I just win. Doesn't make sense. Yeah, this is like the weirdest, but I think somehow very much correct Winter Orb that I've ever played. Because now if my opponent, they've been missing land drops. They don't play that many lands in their deck, and I'm in a situation where I can basically cast all of my spells because they cost 1 and 2, and I have more lands than they do. So I think this is good. So now we're gonna serve with Dreadnought. I'm gonna hold up Meddling Mage to chomp the Mongrel. We're gonna untap. We're gonna tap the white source because if we want the blue source, Seal of Removal is a very good draw. Yep, that's a very good draw. Island, Seal of Removal. If they attempt to mana leak, I can just Daze it. But I could have drawn like Swords to Plowshares, so untapping the white was correct there. Even though it ended up costing me a point of life. Seal of Removal resolves, interesting. Well, here comes an attack for 12. Here we go. So opponent has access to all of their mana. Oh, and their dudes fly. So good thing that I drew the Seal of Removal, because I would have lost the game to that top decked island. Can't block you. Pump Root Dweller. That's good. Unless my opponent's main deck can Stifle, this game is just locked. Yep. Alright. Bounce. No, it's not lethal anymore. Yep, take 3. Down to 3. Boom. Game 1. Game 1 for the good boys. So bringing those Swords to Plowshares. I don't think I want Winter Orb. I think I want Furnace, but I don't want Tormod's Crypt. Seal of Removal seems good. Seal of Cleansing also seems good in small amounts. I think I want the Tutors. Annul and Counterspell are the interesting cards. On the draw, I'm going to cut a Daze. The question is, do I want Annul? I think I'd rather have Seal of Cleansing than Annul. The reason is Annul requires for me to... Like, my opponent has 4 enchantments that I care about, right? Which are the 4 survivals. And the thing is that if my opponent does actually have this... If I have Annul in hand... if I can guarantee that Annul is going to be in my hand when my opponent casts a survival, obviously Annul is going to be better. But as a one-off, I think that I'd rather pay 1 more mana for the flexibility to answer a non-board survival. I think I'd rather have Daze than Counterspell, actually. It's close. It's very close. But I think that's fine. Submit this deck. On the draw. His hand looks good. Alright. So we just have to draw lands. We're going to be cooking. We are gonna be cooking. Turn 1 Basic Forest. Cast Root Dweller. You got it. Would love to draw an island. Basic Island would be my best draw. It's not a Basic Island. So I'm gonna be forced to fetch for a Basic Island just so I can Daze on turn 2. Which is gonna potentially make my Meddling Mage a little bit awkward. I do have to watch out for Naturalize now though. Root Dweller. That is most definitely worth dazing. At least in this board right here. Whoops. Target my opponent. It's funny that we cannot cycle this without a target. So I know that I can exile my own things, which is fine, but that's something to keep in mind for sure. Seems like a good Daze right there. Let's see if my opponent's gonna do something here. Survival is the worst case scenario. Yep. That is rough. I'm not gonna cycle because I have Mage. Opponent can Daze this Mage, which would be bad for me, but they don't. Okay, so here's the moment of truth. What do we name with this? We can name Arrogant Worm. We can name Basking Root Dweller. We can name Waterfront Bouncer. I think I'm gonna name Root Dweller. Because this means that my opponent's gonna need to have another land in order for them to do the Arrogant Worm thing. And I can beat a Worm with these Dreadnoughts. My best draw is, what, another Daze? No activation at all. Alright, so rewarded for... Yeah, I'm gonna take it. That's a good attack from my opponent for sure. 2 mana. Mongrel. Okay. Untap. Land would be sick. Daze. Daze is also sick. So let's face out my Dreadnought, because Daze means that I can now both Daze and foil. Daze Mana Leak. My opponent could have a Naturalize. So because of Naturalize... Actually... I mean, I guess if they have Naturalize, I can just face out my Dreadnought to protect it. They can have Water from Bouncer, though. So I'm just gonna sit here. They don't have Daze, otherwise they would have played it right there, right? Because they don't know I have the foil. This Meddling Mage is doing so much work. If my opponent had access to like their Basking Roadwallas, they would have we would be facing like 4 1/1s that could turn into 3/3s, right? And instead my opponent they just cannot use their survival at all. Alright, moving to combat. No blocks. No blocks. You got me. They're pumping? Wow, really? Okay. Well, I'm winning this race, so I'm into this. Island is a very good draw because it allows me to do the thing while still holding up foil. So now I think we are in very, very good shape. And the question is, do I attack? I think so. Yeah, I think so. They can't put in an Arrogant Worm with the mana that they have access to right there. I could play another Dreadnought, but then we get got by Daze. I'd rather just hold up foil. Opponent plays an island, and I think we got this kind of unlock, right? Oh, okay. So we're gonna attempt to foil this, discarding island and Dreadnought. And if my opponent leaks this, if they mana leak, I can just Vision Charm my own Dreadnought. So if my opponent is smart, what they're gonna do is, like, if they have Naturalized, they're just gonna wait until my turn. Drake is definitely one of the scariest things they could have. It's actually scarier than Water from Bouncer, actually. Because Water from Bouncer would have, like, calmed down and then, like, just can't activate. So I probably would have let a Water from Bouncer resolve. But Drake, I obviously can't. So the best card that my opponent can have in hand is exactly second Naturalize. I guess first Naturalize. They have not cast any of this game so far. So if their last card in hand is a Naturalize, I get to... they get to wait till my upkeep, and then they steal my thing. Honestly? Huh. Okay, we get there. But now that I think about it, it may have been better for me to let the Drake resolve and Vision Charm my own Dreadnought. My opponent steals my Meddling Mage, whatever, it's tapped. I get a Gilded Drake, and then I am basically covered. Yeah, that would have been much, much better, actually. I kind of got freaked out by the Gilded Drake, but... no, actually, no, it's even better. Like, they target my Dreadnought, trigger goes on the stack, I Vision Charm my Dreadnought, and I save it, and then the Drake dies. I still have Meddling Mage, and I just swing in for lethal. Yeah, that would have been a much better play. So that was a punt on my part, because then I get to hold up foil for a potential Naturalize. That was better. Still, not punished. For round number 2, we're getting paired against my nemesis, Oli Raid. I just cannot beat Oli ever, and this hand is going to be no exception, so let's ship it. Okay. This hand is interesting, because it's got good interaction, both for his creatures. I don't have a way to set up the combo, though, and I don't have any counters. I think I'm going to 5. That was a close hand, though. That was definitely a close hand. Okay, so I'm keeping this one. Gonna bottom Winter Orb. And I think I'm gonna... If I had main deck Cursed Totem, I would hold on to the Enlightened Tutor, but as I don't, I think I'm gonna ship it. There's nothing that I can get besides... Yeah, I think I'm just gonna ship the Enlightened Tutor. There's nothing I can get, really, besides the Seal of Cleansing, which doesn't really do anything. I'm not gonna counter a Finhorn Elves. That's a good draw, though. So I'm gonna go with a Darker Wastes, and if Oli plays something worth countering, I'm probably gonna pitch the Island and the Seal of Removal. Quirion Ranger. That's a lot of mana. That's a heck of a lot of mana. I think I'm gonna let him have it, though, and I'm planning to name Survival with Meddling Mage. He untaps, he does the Quirion Ranger tricks. We'll see what he's got going on here. Man, Daze is kind of embarrassing against the Elves, honestly. Don't Survival me, bro. Don't do it. Having to pitch this Island to foil is just devastating. Priest. Okay, I think I'll let the Priest go. And now I can name survival with Meddling Mage. Alright, that's actually a fine draw. So now I have a 2/2 in play. I can name survival. Survival of the fittest. And I have just a bigger threat than everything they have going on. They have a shit ton of mana. I think I let this go. And I save the foil for specifically Wirewood Symbiote or something like that. Yeah, Magic Ranger. That's fine. It's a 2/2, which is kind of annoying, but again, like I cannot beat a Symbiote, so I need to save this foil for Symbiote specifically. The good thing is that he can't play survival, right? So if I find a way to put a Dreadnought into play, definitely gonna bottom the foil. Another opt. Probably have to hold on to the island to discard. So we're gonna be taking, for this turn, we're gonna opt on end step. Funny that like he uses Cradle to pay for both echoes. That's funny. So we're gonna take 4 here. Don't love it, but it is what it is. And I'm gonna opt on end step. That's a land, doesn't really do anything. So if we find Dreadnought, we probably just win. If we find like Stifle, right? Ding, 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 ding. That is a winner, folks. Okay, so here's Dreadnought. We're gonna stifle the trigger. Stifle trigger. We're holding on to foil, pitching Sealer Removal plus Island. We have lethal over 2 turns. He only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power. Sharpshooter. Huh. I think I let that go because it's not hasty. So we get to swing for 12 this turn. Now I get to bounce something, which is in. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now we play Seal of Removal. I swing for 12. I'm going to bounce the Sharpshooter. And now I have access to Counterspell and Foil. Yeah, that was like probably the best draw in the entire deck. He can't attack back for lethal. We have Counterspell available. Nice! Yep. Survival in hand. Dude, can I stress this anymore at this point? Can I stress this anymore? How sick Meddling Mage is in this deck? Alright, Curse Totem. You boys come in. Swords to Plowshares also coming in. Winter Orb out. Furnace is very interesting, right? Because Furnace is a card that it's not great. I think I'm just cutting the daces. I just straight up cut all of them and then maybe bring in a null. But Furnace being able to get rid of anger is kind of a big deal. So I think I'm bringing in, man, Curse Totem is going to be like the MVP in this matchup. So maybe what I'm supposed to do is bring in Counterspell just so I can counter my opponent's answer to the Curse Totem. So if I get to land the Curse Totem, then I just basically get to save my foils to protect the Curse Totem. I started to think maybe I should be playing 4 foils and only 2 counter spells main deck. And null is interesting because it's a way to answer survival on the draw. Probably worth it. I'll cut the Seal of Cleansing. This means I have no answer for an on-board survival though. I think I'm just gonna cut the Seal of Removal. Alright, so now if I do get to land the Curse Totem, that means that all that I need to do is I need to counterspell my opponent's Naturalize. Oh, this hand is nuts! If I find the second land, I think I'm keeping. Very risky. Super risky. Super risky hand. Phyrexian Furnace. Boom. Exile that land. I don't want to see it. Alright. Can we, please? No second land. But Quirion Ranger? Wow, why would he choose to play Quirion Ranger into a daze? Oh, because he has Cradle. That's why. That explains it. That's a survival. Alright. Well, now we're not a good shape. Alright. Discarding Elf to what? Get Squee, probably? We do have Furnace, though, so we can stop these. Land. If I find a white source, maybe we get to continue playing here. That's it. Kept a greedy hand. We needed to find a second land. We didn't get there. That's just too much for me to overcome. Like, the game is not over, but, like, it's gonna be over. And I'm gonna lose, right? So, on the play, Daze becomes a lot more interesting. I can cut the Seal. probably cut a counterspell. Maybe 2 for 2 dazes. So now if I can land Cursed Totem on 2 and I can protect it with Daze, now we're gonna be in business. That's the dream right there. It's nice that I can also, like, I'm on the play, so I can also tutor for Cursed Totem. Turn 2 Dreadnought. This hand can really backfire, but I think I'm keeping it. So if he has an answer to Dreadnought, I'm gonna be in trouble. But he can have basically Naturalize, and I can protect the Dreadnought twice. That's a terrible draw, but it is what it is. Face out my artifact, pass the turn. I'm gonna try to put him on a clock. Korean Ranger, scary. What's the Cradle? Cradle's just so much mana, man. Tangle Wire. that's brutal. All right, 1, 2, 3. Medley Mate. So play an island, say go. That's a good Tangle Wire, not gonna lie. It's a really good Tangle Wire. Basically just doesn't impact him whatsoever. He's spending a lot of time slowing me down though, so maybe Orangutan. Protect it. He could have Naturalize, but it is what it is. That's an attack. Alright. 1, 2, 3. A Plains. Here's 12 points of damage. Hope that it's good enough. Please don't have another one, Ollie. Please don't have another one. Because that's kind of what I got. That is kind of what I got. Second Tangle Wire would also be pretty rough for me. Please no Naturalize. Please no nothing. Ooh, baby! First time! First time I was able to beat Ollie. This is exciting. And Melee Mages doing work. Some heavy lifting game 1. Alright, we're on to the finals. And here we go. Finals of the Premodern Championship. No lander. Let's see if we can do better on 6. Another no lander. Let's see if we can do better on 5. Opponent moves to 6. We're going to go to 5. Okay, we're going to go to 4. Wow. I mean, we're obviously going to keep this one. So keep, bottom, bottom. And I guess I'm going to bottom the other... I'm just going to bottom the other Stifle. I mean, we can still win with this hand, honestly. Opponent plays basic island. We draw foil. That's really awkward. I'm just going to play out the island. And this means I can't foil. But I think it's going to be important for me to... Okay, so we may be playing against blue Stifle Knot. Which is a good matchup, but you know, we move to 4, so we're very low on resources here. Yeah. Ooh, Flooded Strand. Okay. If they fetch, I'm just gonna stifle it. I'm short on resources. I need to try to get an advantage however I can. It's possible that they just ace. It is what it is. If I do find a fetch under another island, I may be in good shape, however. My opponent's definitely ahead on the Floated Strand Arts game, so I feel a little bit outplayed here. So opponent peeks. They know about the Stifle now, which I assume they're gonna play around. Yeah, so they just pass the turn, which makes sense. That is a Dreadnought. All right, so let's pass the turn here because my opponent can't really force me to do anything. But now they're going to be playing around these Stifle, and they don't know Portent. Yeah, that's fine. That's actually quite interesting. So my best draw would be another basic island. If I find another basic island, I kind of feel like I'm ahead, which is a weird thing to say when I was behind the entire game, and I mulled to 4. Our opponent does not shuffle, which is scary. They don't shuffle from the Ponder. They obviously don't shuffle from the Flooded Strand. I assume that they have another land. Another Dreadnought. That's brutal. Yeah, so we're just going to pass it back. Right now, this Stifle is doing a lot of work, slowing my opponent down, and I just need to draw into another land so I can actually start pulling ahead. Because as is Mox Diamond. Oh, this is what's his name? This is just Gro-A-Tog. Yeah, this is just Gro-A-Tog, which is pretty rough. Alright, so there's a Quirion Dryad, which is a little bit of a problem. Not gonna lie, it's a little bit of a problem. Our window to find basic island is narrowing. Okay, so let's do that. This is gonna open up the flooded strand for them, which is kind of brutal, but at this point, it's worth doing. So I think this is just gonna name Source of Plowshares, and then I'm just gonna try to race my opponent's hopefully not gonna be able to play enough spells before the Dreadnought comes down. They could daze this, which would be a little bit rough, but it's fine. Gush. So that means no daze, but that now they can foil. So they draw 2. Okay. So discard Island, Flooded Strand, pass it back. I mean, if we find an island, if we find a basic island, we may still be in good shape here. Second Warrior Dryad. We just gotta draw the basic island. Or fetch land. Fetch land also does it. There we go. Here's a Dreadnought, and here is a Stifle. So now we have a 12-12, which we can protect with Gush plus Foil. They discarded one of the... Okay, so they drew another one. They have Plow. Okay, so I'm gonna Gush here. And I'm probably gonna... They daze, which I'm gonna pay for. Pay for daze, and now what? Draw 2. Counterspell Gush. So this is 5-8. So just foil there. Discarding Dreadnought. So my opponent has 1 card left in hand, basically, which is because the other one is an island. Okay. Here's an attack for 12. That is 8. It's going to be up to 10 next turn. There's an argument for, like, messing with Division Charm on their upkeep. Probably holding up Counterspell is better. Portent. I think we counter this. I just don't want my opponent to have any selection. This forces the chump block. It's going to be 10 points. If their last card is something that can interact with Dreadnought, I'm fine. Again, like I'm playing from behind here, right? So by countering this spell, I deny my opponent's card selection. Their last card is Daze. Oh, their own counter spell. So that is 7 plus 5, which means that they can swing for 7 this turn. If I Vision Charm on my own end step, I think this still comes back on their turn, which is a little bit awkward. Opponent declines the shuffle. So if the card they draw is Gush, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble, because then the Dryads are going to be bigger than Dreadnought. I'm still going to serve here and force the trade, because it's just getting worse for me otherwise. But yeah, if my opponent has Gush here, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. No Gush. So we have a clean trade here, and the game goes on. Drawing the basic planes there is pretty brutal. Can't Gush. But now the game is going to go on for a little bit longer. Seal of Cleansing is pretty good. Can blow up their Mox Diamond. So if they have Counterspell, they kind of have to use it. Their mana just gets shredded to pieces otherwise. Fire. Float my 9 response. Play around Daze. Blow this up right now. Alright, once again, Basic Island is my best draw, which is funny. Winter Orb, that's fine. Not super worried about that. That's pretty good. I think I'm playing around Daze next turn. So again, still my best draw is a Basic Island or Fetch Land, another Vision Charm. So we're gonna pass it back, which gives my opponent Counterspell mana, but I think that's fine. They pass it back. Having no protection is kind of brutal. So we're just gonna pass it back here. Again, like the thing is that if I find an island, I just get so far ahead. What an interesting game. What a fascinating game. This was on a multi-4, mind you. Here's Meddling Mage. What to name here is very interesting. I think it's gonna be Source to Plowshares. Yeah, it's Source to Plowshares. And this lack of draws is pretty brutal. Peak. And if they're going to be cantripping, that's kind of good for me. Is this Gush? It is Gush. So if they don't find Mox Diamond, we're going to be in really good shape. I can face out Winter Orb, which would allow me to untap everything. Meddling Mage. Alright. So their hand is double Island plus Unknowns. They're probably going to name Dreadnought, I mean. Yep. So if I attack, it's a really good draw. Yeah, I've been waiting for that draw for a minute. So now, this puts my opponent in kind of an awkward spot, because I'm winning the race. I'm ahead on mana, behind on cards, but I like my spot. I like my spot a fair bit. Yeah. Untap island. It's pretty good. Keep developing our mana. And I think this stalemate favors me because I'm ahead on life. I think next turn I'm gushing. Mox Dime. Yeah, I think that's fine. That's a 2-for-1. They discard their land. Makes their gushes worse. Oh, never mind. They discard City of Brass. Still have counterspell. I'm gonna serve here. Attack. Opponent's probably gonna have to trade, which is fine. Float blue. Gush. Return into islands. Play my land. I'm gonna opt, and I'm gonna see if I can find another meddling mage. Bottom that basic island. Another land. So now we're flooding a little bit, which is not where I want to be. So I still think I'm gonna Dreadnought. Face out my artifact. Counterspell. Okay. Face out my artifact. They know about that. I think if this one resolves, that's a foil. And I'm gonna... If I counterspell, I get got by days, so I'm just gonna face it out again. Their last card in hand could be Swords to Plowshares. And then we're just stuck in a stalemate. But now I'm in good shape, because I'm gonna get to untap my land. So even if, like, my opponent will need to have exactly plow into days. I guess they could draw exactly Gro-A-Tog too. Opt. Okay, that's good. That means Gro-A-Tog is out of the picture. They bottom with opt. Untap. Okay. And they know that the last card in hand is a counterspell, so unless their hand is double Swords to Plowshares, which it can't be, because otherwise my opponent would have plowed last turn. Fire Ice. Swing for lethal. Boom, baby. Mult to 4. No big deal. So Swords to Plowshares look great. I like counterspells probably better than days, at least on the draw. Foil seems great for Exin Furnace, doesn't do anything. So I'd rather have Seal of Cleansing. Winter Orb sucks. This looks fine. 2 crypts, an all, blue elemental blast. I think this is fine. That was a fantastic game 1. Let's see if we can deliver game 2 as well. Strong opener. Very strong opener. I like this. I like this for sure. We have our mana set up. Now the name of the game here is just draw as many gushes as I can. That's the goal. Now we have the combo. We have Seal of Removal as both interaction and protection. We also have some free counter magic, which is always welcome. Opponent moves to 6 again. I assume they're gonna fetch main phase to play around Stifle. Smart. Fetch and go. That's not a bad draw at all. Not a bad draw at all. Actually, yeah, let's just pass the turn here. There's just no need to show the Seal of Removal. Maybe it's good to just have it out there. Double island, no mox. Opt. Okay. I mean, every single one of these cantrips is kind of good for me because it means that my opponent's not developing their board. So we're kind of playing around. That's very nice. So I'm gonna play out the Seal of Removal. We're playing around days very nicely here, so I think we're just gonna keep doing that. And I think Mage is gonna name Swords to Plowshares or Crater Dryad. Okay, if my opponent's gushing here, I'm feeling like I'm in pretty decent shape. Peek, take a look. It's basically Mox or bust, right? If they can't find their Mox Diamond, they fall behind on mana. Okay, they did. Am I foiling this? I think no. We have Seal of Removal that can take Seal of Cleansing, sorry, that can take care of that. We got Seal of Removal in play as well. So if they play a Queen Dryad or something, they can grow a little bit, and whenever we feel like we're good, we can just bounce it. Portent, no shuffle. Okay, we untap. Gonna fetch for my basic planes here, so I know I don't just randomly draw it. It's a good draw. It's a very good draw. Here's a Metal Mage. And because I have Seal of Removal in play, I'm just naming Swords to Plowshares here. They could have Pyroclasm, so I do have to watch out for that. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be playing a second Meddling Mage into Pyroclasm. I guess I can just foil the Pyroclasm. Meddling Mage. Sure, that's fine. And just bounce it if we need to. Phyrexian Dreadnought. No land there. I'm still going to attack with Mage. And I think I'm just gonna play a second one. If I bounce 2 lands, I think I'm gonna go to discard, so I'm just going to, unless I find stuff to play. So I'm just gonna play another Meddling Mage here. And this one's gonna name Premodern Dryad. It's wild how many of my matches with this deck end up looking like this. So if they want a Pyroclasm, Psychotog, float mana, Gush, foil, discard Island, Envision Charm. So Psychotog's gone. Okay. Be and tap. Play my land. I think I just serve. Yeah, I think so. Imagine they're gonna block the one naming Quirion Dryad. They name the one. Okay, so that's the one they block. Seal of removal. So that gives me. I did that because I think that gives me a lot of information. Whoops. Nope. Cancel. And let's face out my dude. So I guess we get dazed now, which is a little bit of a problem, but now that gives me a ton of info, right? Like now they don't have a Dryad in hand and they actually do have Swords to Plowshares in hand. So we gave up on 2 points of damage, but like the amount of information that we gain in the process seems really, really valuable. I wonder if they have Disenchant. Disenchant would be kind of brutal. But now if I attack, they can block the one naming Swords to Plowshares. Yeah. So they do have Disenchant, which is rough. Yep, there we go. We don't have Counterspell mana, we don't have an island for foil, so that's kind of brutal, but it's pretty funny. Alright, same with both of them. So now if they do block the one that's naming Swords to Plowshares, this unlocks my Swords to Plowshares. So even if they do answer, if they do plow this Meddling Mage, it just means that the game's gonna go longer, because I have answers for my opponent's dudes as well. Every time I get paired against this matchup, it's just such a great game. There's Quirion Dryad. If they cantrip, I'm gonna plow. But if they don't, I'm just gonna untap because I get to find an island. Okay, so there's a cantrip. So I think I'm just gonna let them look at the card and order the cards. And then I'm gonna plow after they have made their portent decision. No shuffles. So now on end step, Swords to Plowshares, your Quirion Dryad. They have only one card in hand, so they can't answer it. And now, hopefully, they kept like something, assuming that the Quirion Dryad was going to survive. And we get him. That Swords to Plowshares is not the best, nor the worst draw. Again, we're still in a position where lands are good, and spells are also good. Our best draw, Gush, as it often is. As it often is, Gush is the way to go. I could have Counterspell there just to use my mana, but I don't think that's worth doing. I think this Counterspell is going to have better uses down the road. Hey, look at that. Am I gushing here? I don't think so, because I may want to Counterspell something. 2 mana. Gush. Well, definitely Counterspelling that one. And if they counter back, I think I Gush. And what we do from there is interesting. Look at this stack. Look at this beautiful, gorgeous stack. This is interesting. So, I think that's fine. Do I foil this? I think I do. Discard a land, discard plow. We can go for the combo this coming turn. The problem is if I do that, we just get super owned by this. Red Elemental Blast is brutal. Wow, that's a brutal Reb. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, I'm fighting this fight. I've chosen. I've chosen that I am fighting this fight, so we're just gonna go for it now. Now I'm very far behind. Now I am super far behind. We don't have islands in play. I guess we do have islands in play. I guess I could just draw a Dreadnought and just my opponent somehow not have a way to interact with it. Seems unlikely, but could be a thing. What a crazy match this is. Yeah, that's another Gush here is just kind of GG. So now we are behind by a lot. Now we are super far behind. That Reb was devastating. That Red Elemental Blast was absolutely devastating. Okay, so Gush helps. Gush definitely helps. Gush definitely helps. That's a Quirion Dryad. So we still have 2 Swords to Plowshares that we're drawing towards. But now things are getting a lot worse. I know one of my opponent's last cards in hand is a basic island. So I'm assuming that also means that they have foil because they're not playing it out. So we know that my opponent's hand is foil land. So here's a gush. Okay, pass the turn. Maybe they're just holding the land for another Mox. It seems worse than just playing it. I guess at this point, like, if they do have foil, they should just be playing other lands because they can just hardcast the foil. Fire Ice. Fire Ice is actually pretty rough versus Meddling Mage. Actually, that's an interesting thing. Like, when I name Meddling Mage, do I just name Fire Ice? I've never actually tried to do that. So I don't actually know how it works. That's pretty funny. Hadn't thought about that. We are significantly ahead on clock. So this match may end up getting down to it. So I'm just going. The thing is, like, I could be in this game, right? Like, if my opponent has a bunch of known cards, my hand actually allows me to win if I top deck like a Dreadnought. There's an island. Gonna continue doing this for a while. So the swing for 2. Gosh. That's not bad, but I don't think I want to do it this turn, because that's the 4th gush also. My opponent has also seen 3 gushes. That's 2. So I think that my mana is going to matter a lot on the final turn of the game, whenever that is. So I'm just going to take it easy here. So I'll put a stop on my opponent's upkeep low the Mox time. Obviously, at this point in the match, in the game, like Mox time, the Seal of Cleansing doesn't really matter against the Mox Diamonds. But I have, in what I have played from this matchup, it has felt like it could matter for sure. Okay, we take 2, untap. Meddling Mage is nice. Oh, I guess I should have led on Gush. So, Fire, Ice. I can't name Fire and Ice. Okay. Well, I don't want to name Swords to Plowshare, so what do I want to name? I would like to name Fire Ice, but I guess I can't. Oh, I can either name Fire or I can name Ice. I'm gonna name Fire. Alright. Gush. Pyroblast. Now this is why I didn't want to name like Reb. It's because there's, 2 different things. I'm gonna try to counter there. I'm basically picking a fight here because I can, mostly. Foil. Not hardcast. Okay. That's good enough for me, I guess. Play my land and say go. Yeah, it looks like, because we won game 1, I don't think my opponent's gonna be able to win game 3 in like about 2 minutes. So take 4, which is not great, but it is what it is. And I think I'm blocking this. I could be like stifling Queer and Dry triggers a bunch, which is funny. But I mean, I can still top deck Dreadnought, right? Archetypes. That's big. That's big and huge. That's bigger than a Dreadnought, but then let's block there. So we're out of gushes and out of luck. All right. Game number 3. Game number 3. Should I just bring in these just to fight, specifically to fight against... I mean, I could bring in Curse Totem specifically for what's his name? For Psychotog. I don't think that's worth doing. But like Hydroblast and Blood Elemental Blasts for... I think I'm gonna do that actually. They seem better than the tutors. Okay, let's see if this Hydroblast, Pyroblast game plan actually works. It's kind of interesting to bring in like this extremely narrow cyber card for specifically 2 cards or like 4 cards in my opponent's deck, but it seems like it could potentially be worth doing. Okay, on the... yeah, we're gonna keep this hand for sure. We are on the draw, on the play. I think I'm gonna lead on Island, because if my opponent leads on a fetch land, we can stifle, and that saves the Flooded Strand for later. So, because I don't yet know what I want to do with this Flooded Strand. I don't know if I want to get an island or a basic plains. Meddling Mage. Gonna opt in response. Flooded Strand on top. That's fine. So I'm just gonna let this resolve because I just plow it. And I can do that through this. My name's Dreadnought, which is expected. And I'm gonna play around counterspell here. Pass the turn. I could Dreadnought here, but probably no need to, because I can't protect it. And that's fine. I think that because they play the Flooded Strand out, I think that if they fetch, I stifle. So let's fetch here. Play island, opt. Another island is kind of fine actually, because I have stuff to do with my mana. I could stifle the portent trigger. Hadn't thought about that. So I'm gonna wait until I can protect this Dreadnought a little bit better. So let's gush. So if my opponent revs, yeah, they don't get a counter on the Dryad. But this is fine, I think. So now that resolves. And now I get to go untap, play island, it's not bad. Play Dreadnought, stifle that, Vision Charm, say go, say cancel, and now another Flooded Strand. Okay, so they're probably gonna gush here, which is obviously pretty good for them. Can't interact with Dreadnought right now, but I can top deck a counter spell off of this gush to protect my Dreadnought. Archetypes. Okay, take 3. Let's see if they have an answer for the Dreadnought. Looks like they don't. Let's gush. Okay, take 12. Oh, is this just bad? Did I just lose to the Archetypes now? I think I just lose to the Archetypes. I mean, I'm gonna win on time, but I think this is actually just lethal. Oh, they don't activate. They're playing around Plow. That's so good for me. Fire and Ice, foil, counter, Island of Darker Waste. Do I get to untap? Do I get to untap? Yeah, we're just gonna time out. So now we have counterspell backup. So I guess we were gonna get there. Woo! We won! We got there! We are the champions. Let's go! Yes! Yes! Dreadnoughts still treating me very, very well. I just keep being more and more impressed by this combination of cards right here. I feel like I just say this every single video that I make with this deck, but like every single time I'm like, yep, that's true. Yeah, this is just this just keeps getting better every single time. So very, very happy with obviously taking the championship down. This deck list is very strong. I'm really, really liking it. I'm gonna be trying out a couple of things. I do want to try to make room for some extra cantrips. So that's something that I'm going to be looking into, see if I can play. My last round opponent was playing Peak, which is kind of interesting. Like, the thing is, like, it just feels so weak, right? And sure, like, there's some synergy between Peak and Middling Mage, but, like, the truth of the matter is, like, there's such few cards that actually interact with you in a very, very meaningful way. So just having the information is kind of irrelevant because you will be picking at your opponent's hand, and then you will still naming a card. You will still be naming a card that they don't have in their hand. So if you're going to be naming that card anyway, like what's the point of knowing whether they have it or not? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of awkward in that sense. And like a lot of the value kind of goes away when you think about it in that way. Portent, on the other hand, is a card that is a lot more interesting to me because it only costs 1 mana and it actually gives you some pretty good selection, which Peak does not. The issue with Portent is that it's sorcerer speed, which obviously does not combo particularly well with the card counterspell. So definitely some things to try out for sure. Some upsides and some downsides to both things. But the cards that are potentially cuttable are Swords to Plowshares from the main deck and counter spells. I could also see one of these disappearing. If I had to choose one to go, it would probably be the Winter Orb. Seems like the one that is the most narrow. Although still very, very effective, right? Like whenever I get paired against The Rock, this is like the MVP of the match, always, almost. So that makes me think that Winter Orb is the one that's going to be going away if I were to do that, but I'm not even sure that I want to do that. Also, I kind of want the 4th copy of foil, so I could see this being a thing where the counterspell just turns into the 4th foil, and maybe these 2 turn into cantrips, which is going to force me to change the sideboard somehow, because I would like to have access to at least 3, if not the actual full 4. Also, Null Road is a card that I'm interested in trying out as well, so future decklists will for sure have Null Road in it. It's a very interesting card, particularly with decks like Devourer becoming more and more popular and just like being overall just a very good deck. So being able to Enlighten Tutor on turn 2 for effectively a way to just blank the combo is kind of a big deal. It's also pretty good against decks like Feb or like against like some forms of Angry Hermit. Some of them, not all of them. Also against Mox Diamond decks, New World can be pretty strong as well. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Thank you so much for watching and checking out this video. If you did enjoy it, again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And I talked about all the ways that you can support the channel in the beginning, so I'm not going to bore you with that again. I'm just going to say once again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully you're digging Premodern just as much as I am. Looking forward to the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.